Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Twitch chat. Welcome back to Let Us Play. I'm your host, Father Evan. Hope everyone's having a... Had to reset my mic. It was doing that thing. Good night. That was short. Yup. I like to keep things quick and fresh around here. No, I hope everyone's having a good day. Ugh. Hope everyone's staying dry. It's kind of just a gray, cloudy, rainy day here in the city. It's kind of gross. So, you know, it's a great day to be, to just kind of chill out. So we're going to go into Minecraft. Figured we'd work on the stained glass windows. Yeah, it's a rainy week, yeah. But, you know, figured we'd work on the stained glass windows. And if Glacier is or Glazer is the person who works on stained glass windows, I guess this makes it a glazy day. Anyway. Boo. Thank you. Yeah, glad you went on vacation last week, too. That would be a good week. It's still a day in the city, which is preferable to many elsewhere. That's fair. So, yeah, the first thing we need to do is we need to make glass. So let's dump our smooth sandstone. Oh, we have a bunch of glass. That's great. This is great. This is fantastic. Because I want to make just a bunch of random... Yeah. There's something in this square right here, by the way. Yeah, it sounds so quiet to myself. Ah, perfect. Unperfect. I don't have a silk touch pickaxe with me, do I? I do! I planned ahead! Anyway, we need to get pigments. Fortunately, we're right by this meadow that has lots of flowers. Working towards perfection always, yeah? I mean, that's life. I remember when glass only came in blocks and dice weren't a thing. I remember when Minecraft was a browser-based game. I am Captain Obvious. I think these make... Yeah. What does the Oxidaisy make? Oh, it also makes light gray. That's perfect. I thought it made white. But light gray is good. Let's turn that all into that. Let's make a bunch of orange dye. Let's make a bit more yellow. Sadly, haven't had the time to log in to either expand the Abbey or transcribe more Genesis. That's okay. The server is still there, despite my efforts to crash it. Oh no. Oh no, did I heck up? Oh, I think I have goofed. Oh no. Oh no, you have to make the glass the color before you make it into paints. Oh no. Oh, this is terrible. I have done goofed. Well, we have plenty of clear glass. Luckily, I do have lots of sand. However, I am also using a lot of sand, as you may notice. This is unfortunate. This is my own doing, but it's still unfortunate. Make a box for my shame. I mean, we can still use some of it. Like... a couple squares of clear is not... Forgive me, Minecraft, for I have misplayed. I have misclicked. I have misclicked quite a bit when building this thing, actually. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no. It is loading slowly. In case of villager in glass, make them a display piece. No! I don't... I respect my villagers. No, not a villager. A village. The whole town. Oh, wow. That's like... Okay, Superman. We're gonna put a whole city in a bottle, I guess? I'm not encasing this village in glass. I guess if you need any glass panes for your monastery, though, Step Zero, you can come get it. Is there a boat somewhere along these shores, or is it on the other side? I may have to raid you because for some glass when I get to that far. Well, fair, but I don't know if it's a raid if I say, hey, come take it. Oh, here's a boat. Perfect. Dear server, you can stop trying to load in everything from the exploration of 2 weeks ago. I promise I'm not going back there anytime soon. You were just thinking about meat-free Friday? Anything in particular about meat-free Friday, or are you just like trying to plan your meat-free Friday? Do you only eat fish if you were working on the server on Fridays? Oh, that's why you're thinking of it. Oh, okay. I mean, I just have such a stockpile of fish at this point, I don't see a reason to eat anything else. My Minecraft Steve has ascended to pescatarianism. There are no minks on rafts here. I was lied to. What? I understand the individual parts of that sentence, and in many ways the whole sentence. However, I feel I am missing some major context. But if the internet is to be believed, context is really not that necessary. I'm playing Minecraft. Where does it say I'm playing Minecraft? Also, hi, Matt Pack. Good to see you. Your college did Meatless Mondays. That was Cal. Yeah, Meatless Monday has alliteration. Meatless Friday has more meaning. Oh no, it begins. Minecraft is like fork knife. Oh no, I think I need to restart my server. Hold on. Oh dear. Welcome to Tech Maintenance with Father Evan. Will this let me in? It will, yay. Why is that server up? That's why there's no RAM. The wrong server got restarted somehow. So I was trying to run 2 servers at once. Guess what doesn't work? Let's try that again. It spawned me inside of the ground. Now it's trying to kill me. Minor problems have occurred. Okay, it seems to be running much better now, though. Yeah, look how much better that flies. Okay, just don't turn these into panes before you dye them. I feel like I should just place this one gray panel, get it out of my inventory right away. Oh, I need to make some purple dye. There are a bunch of red flowers out there, but it's almost night. Is it almost night? I can't tell. I think there are some poppies on this side of the... Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the first piece of glasswork I actually want to work on is the wall behind the tabernacle to get that initial design out. Now I think... What? I thought that's... So confused. Oh, I think I remember now. Yeah, okay, that's how you... Man, that is a weird system. I need to make yellow still. Matt Pack, are you back yet? Your comment made me think of a joke. Oh. Hey, Brayherd Lord. Guess what? You can still use regular glass panes and dye them. Okay, this is great news. This is fantastic news. Everything's okay in the world. But Brayherd has redeemed a father joke. So I saw this really sad story about a guy he had unfortunately choked on mashed chickpeas, and that was his undoing. And at first, the police were just saying, "Oh, you know, this is a freak accident. You know, it's tragic, but we're not going to investigate. But then some more information came out, and they're going to now start investigating it as a homicide. No, nothing? Just crickets in the audience today? Oh, okay. It's the appropriate response. Great, glad I walked in for that. You're welcome, Bad Roxy. Good to see ya. I need some smooth sandstone. And I need some scaffolding. I saw it coming from a mile away and could do nothing. Read any good books lately? I'm a really slow reader, mostly because I don't do a ton of reading. So for personal time, I've been reading Who Plugged Roger Rabbit. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. Okay, so I don't want the stained glass to start in the middle because I don't want it being a bar. What was that? Who Plugged Roger Rabbit? It's the sequel to Who Censored Roger Rabbit. I'm usually listening to audiobooks while working about 2/3 of the way through Children of Dune now. Nice. Suppose I could do... Well... No, I think 3's good. Okay, so... Finishing up a Keigo Higashino mystery. Love some Japanese mysteries. Ooh, interesting. Just re-listened to The Infinite and the Divine, which is far funnier than you'd expect a book about space robo-Egyptians. No, the space robo-Egyptians are actually quite funny. Spoiler, there's weird stuff in the book about a desert planet that exports drugs and about a main character whose children are some sort of drug trafficking Emperor Mahdi. Really? Just brought 10 books on vacation? That sounds like a good vacation. Do I want... Guess we can worry about the outside later, actually. Oh, shoot. Got some really good books from a thrift shop. Nice. Yeah, I like how that's coming out, because it's they're going to be sequentially larger, because the next one over is going to be even larger, and we might even put a stained glass window like here or something. I don't know. Just picked up some very nostalgic text, official guidebook to Neverwinter Nights. Ooh. The nostalgia. And then up here I want to do kind of like a rose window situation. You like Graham Greene and Dorothy Sayers? All right. I can't say I've ever really read. Ooh, Pillagers. That's bad. I can't really say that I've read either of them. Actually, I think I'm going to come back with the pickaxe. And, well, no, maybe that one can stay, actually. So, yeah, I like how that's turning out. Forming kind of a diamond pattern. It wasn't exactly what I had in mind, because I actually had in mind being kind of capping off at the same height, but I think I prefer this diamond pattern more, actually. So if I were to do... I guess to keep up with the proportions of everything else, a stained glass window that's too wide right there would be perfect. Graham Greene has 4 Catholic novels that are very interesting. Love having some context and culture of a book be things like Sacraments, Martyrdom, but still literature your book. It's like, if you like history, The Power and the Glory is pretty good. I've heard good things about The Power and the Glory. That definitely rings a bell. Smooth, 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 smooth. Running low on smooth sandstone already. Let's grab the Silk Touch pickaxe while we're here too, in case we need it. Thinking I'm going to bring this down by 1 on the height, though, just so it's not diagonal right there on that other window. Yeah, that's looking nice. No, I saw the gratuitous educational content pop up. Meep. Meep was coming. He's in my whatchamacallit place. My recipe book. There, meep, there, meep. Rotata. So today is the Feast of St. Cajetan, the founder of the Theatines. Nor do we hear too much about in America. But he belonged to this organization that I thought was really interesting called... Actually, that may even be able to go away. I'll have the belt. We'll leave it there for now. We'll figure it out later. Anyway, he belonged to this thing called the Oratory of Divine Love, which was not an oratory, but more like a lay and ecclesial movement. It was a way that lay people and bishops and priests of Rome could get together to talk about reform, both in the life of the church, as this was after the Council of Trent, but also just in the city of Rome in general. And it was always with an eye towards, great, how does this reform serve others? How does it take care of someone in need? So they would do things like found hospitals and orphanages and schools. And I think that's just like a really cool thing in general, but also like I think a great model of how to do the Christian life, of engaging in dialogue with the purpose of resulting in action, which was inherently human and not an oratory. Yeah. What characterizes? Okay, so an oratory is, properly speaking, a church that is for use of a religious community, but is not... It can be public, but that's not its main purpose. So, like, technically the chapel at our house here is an oratory, but it's a private one. But the Oratorians, another order, they live and work in an oratory, and it's not a parish, but it still has a somewhat public character to it. In canon law, the Catholic Church, an oratory is a place set aside by permission of ordinary for divine worship for the convenience of some community or group of the faithful assembled there, but to which other members of the faithful may have access to. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Thank you, canon law. Let it be known, I said thank you, canon law. No, actually, canon law is really important. It does a lot of good stuff. It's just somewhat inscrutable to understand some days. It's called canon law. It hits like a cannon, either good or bad. Sure. Not quite, but sure. Anyway, I like how that wall turned out. That is really nifty. Break these down. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm very pleased with how that turned out. So now we need to put in a rose window up here, so I guess a question... I guess the rose window should go in the middle. So I guess I could probably use these windows as a bit of a guide. Like if I do it in the middle of... I think one of the books of the 1632 series is called The Canon Law. The canon law says boom to your windows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If I do, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, if we make that the middle. First use of canon, 1N, in something other than liturgical context from fans of Sherlock Holmes. Well, canon's not necessarily liturgical, but I get what you mean. There are canonical canons. Ow. Which one is... Okay, so these two are center. Oh, that's why this is screwed up. I'm like, why? How is this odd? I'm very, very confuzzled. I better get down off this roof. Well, that's a phone call. It's just going to have to wait. If I don't recognize your number, I'm not answering. Especially not while I'm streaming. So if I try and travel back to the ancient Near East, introduce artillery to Semitic kingdoms, and make sure the historical records survive, would that make it a canon? Sure. The command strip I just peeled. I used just peeled the paint. Wow, I've had command strips peel paint on the way off, but not while putting them on. Sounds like a really bad luck day. It's well, it's coated panel and looks like they didn't use primer, so it's not your fault. I didn't say it was your fault. I just said it was bad luck. When will those fools learn to use primer? I mean, in my experience, probably never. So how would that look? I think I need to move the bar up one. Two thin coats? No. We slap brush around here. Not really, though. Please use proper painting techniques and thin your paints, kids. Unless they're metallics, then maybe don't, depending on brand and quality and style, but you know. Repaint and thin no more. Well, you know. Go! I hear growling. Is there a zombie under here? There is. Hi, zombie. Hello, one dark corner. I should fix that so that I don't get growling zombies under the tabernacle. That seems like a bad idea. So it's a little messy right now, but I think that's something I like. So if that's the 4, this one needs to be just the 2. The way this song samples Broken Glass always makes me so nervous. Because it's just that very faint in the background. I'm very worried something in the office just shattered. Don't shoot. Ow. Okay, let's knock this down and see how it looks from the inside. Okay, well that spot's missed, but that's on the outside. That's... There's a couple spots on the outside I've missed. Okay, that's better. That's still not perfect, but we'll worry about the outside aesthetics. Because I might add some of like the wood pillars. For reasons I've never been able to explain myself, large blocks of non-representational stained glass that have made me always think hippie church. I mean, you're not wrong, but I was kind of just thinking for this, it's hard to do representational shapes on such a low resolution. And I just wanted to evoke a lot of Sagrada Familia, and actually a lot of stained glass. If you look at like a church, there's often like a particular center of the window that is like a scene and very obvious, but then like the outside is designed in a filigree pattern with multiple colors. Sometimes things can just be beautiful. Yeah, it's good to see a Gale. I hope this is one of those things. I like how it turned out. I like that rose window. I like the diamond evocation. Let's take care of this zombie. Light up his dark corner so he cannot respawn. But yeah, so now all we have to do is this exact same thing, but on the opposite side. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Arabic calligraphy is so beautiful. It's some amazing geometric design. It's part of why I like Art Deco, to be honest, is it's some really impressive, intricate design work. Nope, that box is full. Let's make another one. Did I know Arabic contains the highest density single character of any written language? I did not know that, and yet also I am not surprised. Oh, wait. This is actually a good chance to heal up this pickaxe. Because it's a fair amount of XP. Death of the World used to sell a t-shirt with Our Father in Arabic calligraphy. All right. I saw a really cool thing. It was the Pledge of Allegiance done in Arabic calligraphy, set in a pattern of the American flag. I was like, okay, right on. I can get rid of that. I don't need that. Yeah, that lets in a decent amount of light. So I'm not worried about things being too dark. Let's grab one more. I want to see if I can plan out a bit of the apps. Because one of the tricky things is that the walls terminate inside of the bell towers. So I kind of have to plan it around the bell. I don't think that's going to work. I think it's going to have to be a flat wall. Yeah, it's just going to have to be a flat wall, I'm afraid. Kind of want to do something with the dome next, but maybe not. I don't know. Because, like, I've got this dome. And where would I want to incorporate some windows into it? I suppose I could do something kind of like, oh shoot, I forget which church it is. Is it St. Peter's? Hagia Sophia? There's a church with a dome where there's actually like a ring of windows, or basically solid glass, all the way around, and then the dome on top of it, and it makes it look like the dome is floating. I could do a ring of just like plain glass all the way around. I like that. Peace be upon him in Arabic as a single character. Okay. I mean, culturally, it would make sense why that's... there. I mean, it's kind of an important character. But I like, so I think I'm going to put glass all the way around here, but I do like leaving this center of these four, kind of make it look like a support column. Baltimore Basilica has a cool dome. It does. The Baltimore Basilica is really interesting. Clearly, we need to get OSP's Blue in here to observe Judge the Dome. No, please. Have mercy. Hear me out. Dome made of thermite. Yes, but if it got ignited, I feel like that would be a problem. Also, glad you're back, Map Hack. It burns gloriously! Well, so would this dome if thunder hit it. It's mostly wood. But your Minecraft joke made me think of, I forget his name, and I bet Step Zero will know who I'm talking about, but there was a guy who's it's an old joke, it's from like the 70s. But he's talking about how inflation is starting to affect even words. So, you know, B4 becomes B5 and so on and so forth. And it gets to the point that he says a sentence, if thunder hit? Yes, if thunder hit. It gets to the point where he says a sentence that's something to the effect of, I nined my lavender loin with a fife. And I thought you would appreciate that. Do you know who I'm speaking of? Step Zero? I feel like you would. Otherwise, I would be very surprised. Speaking of students, I never had the fear because we didn't have hanging lights, but supposedly all my students have thought that the lights will fall at mass. Ooh, that's a thought. I'm like, the chances are nil, but they haven't taken yet, and they are going to. You have no idea what? Wow, I know an obscure pop culture reference that Step Zero doesn't. I don't know what I feel about that. I hope that one day we can make a language a complete impediment to understanding. I mean, see our previous comment about canon law. You're actually more afraid of the crucifix falling during Mass in high school, but mostly because I was the one hanging it. Allergic to the paint of the crucifix. That's a new one. Why don't you come to church more often? I'm allergic to Jesus. I don't think that's how that works. I'm allergic to cheese. It usually means gluten-free. Yeah. Did any saplings fall? Okay, some, yes, good. Although for now I'm not going to replace these because I want to ultimately have this be a bit more open. So that from the plains, it's a little easier to see the church. I want to leave some though. There's an Enderman around. I was too slow. And let monsters spawn, and now there's an Enderman. This is annoying. Baptize him. No, I don't think it works that way. I don't think they react well to water. I should have brought the axe with me because I'm probably going to make mistakes. Oh, well. So that's part of why I love Speaker for the Dead. It deals with incorporating rational non-humans into the church. Ooh, that does sound interesting. I mean, it's an interesting theological thought experiment, I guess, of could there be an alien race that never experienced the fall and never fell from God's graces and still lives in the garden? And I think there's interesting ramifications and questions and whatnot that it raises. But it's a cool idea to think about. Gotta go pick up your ID. Let's go get an ID! Have I ever read C.S. Lewis' Space Trilogy? No, I keep hearing about it. And I keep thinking, oh, that sounds like fun. I should read that sometime. And then I forget. Maybe I should look into getting it on, like, Kindle or something. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. If they never experienced the fall and we found them, would would we inadvertently find the garden? I guess we'd find their garden. Like, that'd be one of the theological questions. Could we even enter it? Space Trilogy narrator. Oh, that's the Elder Scrolls one? Oh my. Merlin gets involved. Okay, why haven't I read this? I don't know, Father. Why haven't you read it? I'm lazy. Also, good to see a visual Eminem. I had a. Oh no! Mappack's having a strong. The name's Bames Nond. Can I try to include a Space Trilogy reference in Goth now? There you go. Are you on? I'm assuming you're on the Book Nerd episode. Father Kevin he only reads Instagram, Reddit, and webcomics. Okay, first of all, I don't read Instagram or Reddit. Every other part of that sentence is true. Father Evan is definitely a Redditor. No. No, I've never Reddited. I had a roommate in college who was really into Reddit, and he tried explaining to me how it even works, and I just got bored. I want to grab these 2 blocks really quickly. As an elder millennial, I'm insulted that you left fanfiction on that list. Okay, we'll put fanfiction on the list there, Step Zero, just for you as a treat. I omitted it as if you they view it with disdain. Savage but fair. How much? Okay, we have 3 stacks left. I don't know if that'll be enough to finish this layer, but we'll see how far it takes us. The Divine Comedy is one of the 3 things. One of the 3 things that got you through your time working in Canada. The other 2 were alcohol and your entire CD Rolodex. That is an eclectic mix. Because I know what's inside your CD Rolodex. Fortunately, this is going to be like one of the thickest layers we have to build up. We have to build a wide layer at the top, but it was less weird in 2010. Fair, but oh yeah, no, these 3 stacks, because we're down to 1 stack and we're just barely halfway through. Poetry, depressants, and jams. What else do you need in Canada? I don't know, is Duke of Pizza lurking? The Divine Comedy is a very poor sequel to Paradise Lost. I think they're just planning on rebooting the series. Yeah, I like what that one glass line is doing. And that'll provide some good light. I'm sure somebody played this game, they didn't realize they would get vertigo. Yeah. I'm sure plenty of people have learned such things about themselves in playing Minecraft. What's a CD Rolodex? Like a kind of case for a CD, just with a bunch, or for a bunch of CDs. A Rolodex was originally just like a kind of holder for it. It's kind of like how Kleenex is synonymous with tissues. Rolodex was like a particular brand of like a thing that holds business cards in like a rolling circle. Way before the internet existed. So the term can be applied more loosely just to a collection of, or a thing to hold many other things. Which I suppose means my long box under my bed of useless magic cards is a magic Rolodex. Time to lurk. All right, take care. Have a great day. I do, in fact, play Magic the Gathering. I'm actually even a judge. I always thought American Christians were against games like that. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of... That has been a thing, certainly, but just because it's like a prominent voice does not necessarily mean it's even the majority. You know, it's kind of like when Pokemon was brand new, there was a whole lot of stuff in the news about the outrage over it and how it's anti-Christian, etc. And whether or not that even represented a large view or a large percentage of a view is the thing in question. Yeah, it's more common in evangelical circles. Yeah, usually just the loud, you know, squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Evangelicals are Protestants, but they have some kind of uniting structure thing that makes them evangelicals. No, it's more they are united by a principle of not being united, if that makes sense. Like, it's not that they're against each other, but like anyone can start an evangelical Christian church. And, like, there doesn't have to be any sort of oversight, approval, or anything. There can be. There are organizations that they can join. But, like, as I understand it, they can also just do it on their own. Yeah, no. They take on... There are sort of voices of leadership in a sense. But it's not that... It's not like the way in the Catholic Church there's, like, bishops. It's more... in the sense that, oh, this person is, I don't want to say popular in a diminutive way, but like they are a popular voice in theology and pastoral leadership. So we like their books and we use their materials. But that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, Britt, good to see you. Outside of evangelical circles, people are nerds. Father Evan is a nerd, and I'm pretty sure that my priest, at least, is as much of a nerd. Oh, yeah. Father David's a nerd. Oop. Don't want to go down there. Often have broad, shared leadership for political purposes and charismatic movements based on spreading the word. Tend to branch. Yep. Yeah, a lot of the evangelical Christian tradition follows the 5 solas. Sola Scriptura, Sola Fide, I forget what the other 3 are. Lead to a lot of contradictory beliefs. Yeah. It really could. I'm not here to, because I am not an evangelical. I don't fully understand their polity or their systems. So I totally believe that it could, but, you know, I'm not here to say, oh, wow, all of them have constantly contradicting beliefs either. Because there are certain core things that they agree on where it's like, this is a... Because they'll have kind of... Like, they had one just this last summer, kind of a convention in a sense. Not like in the sense of like a Comic-Con, but more like a political convention. And make... You know, be like, okay, these are agreed statements in faith. So... I wrote it on St. Cajetan. Although because of the book we use at Daily Mass, I preached on St. Cajetan, but I tied it into just the Gospel of the Day, the Samaritan woman. So. How many in my congregation do you think know what the Immaculate Conception is? I ask because I have seen so many people say it's about the conception of Jesus, but I can't know if they're Catholics or not. Yeah, I mean, even within Catholics, like, you could ask certain people and they get that mixed up, which is fair. Properly speaking, Jesus would have been immaculate conceived, I guess. But the Immaculate Conception refers to Mary's. I would say a good portion of our congregation would get it. We have a very faithful congregation who come on December 8th for the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. And, you know, we have the Assumption in March. And we have excuse me. We have an older designed church, so we have multiple altars. So we actually have one that's dedicated to the Assumption, and very clearly, like, Gabriel coming to Mary. So I think people would more readily recognize and know it in our congregation. The fact that evangelical is a synonym for Protestant, but in America it refers to a specific type of Protestant. Did not actually know that. Cultural evangelicals have a lot more in common with atheists and cultural liberal Protestants, like the Episcopal Church I grew up in how they do things with other Christian communities. Oh. Well, I will say your perception is yours and valid, and I cannot undo that. So, Burkwood. Oh, is there any sort of accepted text of Catholic beliefs like that? Not necessarily a religious text, but a Catholic glossary? Yes. Yeah. Hold on. I have one somewhere. I just have lots of bookshelves. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, as Ray Hurd said. It's basically an index of core beliefs, and it has a very nice glossary. So you can like look individual things up. So you can look up like what's the creed, and it says, oh, did you mean creed as this, or so you can go through, and then it points you to individual paragraphs. It's a little confusing at first because it's like it gives you a number, and you're thinking, oh, page number, and you go to the page number, and it's not there, but individual paragraphs are numbered. And you can get this online. You can read the entire catechism on the Vatican website. But it's, you know, so like paragraph 770, I just randomly open to this one. The mystery of the church. The church is in history, but at the same time, she transcends it. It is only by, quote, with eyes of faith, end quote, that one can see her invisible reality, and at the same time, in spiritual reality, as bearer of divine life. You know, very simple, but there's also a lot in there. And it always has like quotations to like where in scripture it's coming from, what like historical church documents it's drawing upon. So it's not a book I recommend sitting down and trying to read straight through on your own, but it's a great reference book, and with a guide you can read it. So there's a priest whose name is escaping me, very popular. He did catechism in a year. But yeah. There is, in fact. Anyway, back to Britt's question. The Burkadu. Oh, I wanted to break that, actually. Father Mike Schmitz. That's it. Hey, Squirrel. Good to see ya. Can I explain the scraps and the dogs comparison besides the Gentiles historically referred to as dogs? I don't feel like I've received a real satisfactory answer. Yeah, so there is actually some interesting wordplay there in the Greek, from what I understand. Like, the word Jesus uses for dog is more like a term for a dog who serves or as outside the family, whereas the word for dog that she uses is more referring to like a pet, like something in the family. So it's in and of itself, like there's some wordplay that gets lost in the translation. But yeah, there's also a sense that dogs, you know, are mostly a working animal and something outside the family. And Jesus at that time, his mission was to the people of Israel. And after his death and resurrection, would it be fully shared? Now, because of her faith, she gets to share in the fruit of the resurrection even before it happens, because God can break time like that. In a year, I mean, more time than that. That's okay. He did it as a follow-up to the Bible in the year. I actually celebrated Mass next to Father Mike Schmitz once at Seek. We just randomly wound up next to each other. Like, I turned at the sign of peace, and it's like, oh, I know that face. You have read some Bibles? Hey, that's a great start. You know, there's a lot of the whole of our faith is founded in the Bible. You know, certain things may not be like a direct quotation of the Bible, but it doesn't mean that they're divorced from it either. You know, the reality of who Christ is first understood through his historical mission on Earth, his death and resurrection, and from that, we can then start to make statements on his divinity and expand from there. Are there any Christian groups with non-dualist views of Jesus? What do you mean by non-dualist? Well, from what I recall, the view of Jesus predominantly, yeah, I mean that is the hey Mel, the lowercase o Orthodox view of Jesus. He is the reality of the incarnation is he's human and divine. I would argue that if you follow Jesus but you deny one of those, you're not really a Christian by like definition. And that's a point of contention, actually, because, like, in the LDS Church, the Mormons, they don't believe in the divinity of Christ in the same way. And so mainline Christianity says, well, you're not Christian then. And they say, but we are. And it's like, so it's kind of awkward and difficult. One thing you find interesting is that the only one of the Gospels accepted by the ancient heretic Marcions was Luke. Ever conflicting things on Mormons if are Christians? Yeah. If you were to ask someone of the LDS faith, they would say yes. If you were to ask someone else, like if you were to ask me, I would honestly say, no, I don't think they are, theologically. I don't think they're bad people. Like, these are not mutually exclusive things, but one full loop and only I would have fallen and lost all my blocks. Fortunately, I would have respawned very close, but I do not want to fall. Because with 47 levels of XP, that's a lot of enchanting I can do later. But I do have various magical armors with protection. I don't have feather falling. I couldn't get feather falling on my boots. I need to try again. But I can hold that shift button. Yeah. The shift button does a lot of heavy lifting in Minecraft. I can tell when I am playing Minecraft again for the first time that I haven't, because my left pinky on my shift key like practically gets a callus. Also, I'm afraid Nana's not around. Nana is away on a vacation this week. Yeah, it's coming together nicely. So she's got a picture this morning from Nana Kid, actually, of her and her husband getting ready to do a horseback ride down into Bryce Canyon. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm not Nana Kid, but I offer you whatever reassurance you are in need of. You are wonderful and valid, Mel. That's another level done. No, it's up. That's entirely up to you to share as much as you want and feel comfortable. I don't want to put you on the spot and make you feel like you have to share, but... To horses I say, nay. To horses I say, whinny. Go for it, yeah. Can you repeat the Birkwood after the Chancellor pulled you aside? Oh no! Come on, Chancellor, don't you know better? Time to TLDR this. Okay. So yeah, so back to your Birkwood. Part of it's language. So there's the difference in Greek that the woman uses versus what Jesus uses, and it's kind of there's a bit of a wordplay of like the difference between a dog who is only for working and a dog who is part of the family. Is one way I've had it explained to me. And also just the sense of dogs are unclean in a sense in Jewish life, I guess. Might be another option. I'm not 100% positive on that, but in like in Jewish law at the time. But she shares ultimately in the resurrection before it even happens. Birkwood, a belligerent rhinoceros quietly digests. Oh, hey, that's another level already finished. That is coming together very quickly. I had a feeling it wouldn't be quite right, but it was the best guess I could make. It's a darn good guess. No, it's Brit's random question of the day. Dogs are still often thought of as unclean in the Levant. Oh, okay. Calling someone a dog is not a nice thing to say in Arabic. Ah, okay. Oh no, we only have one question per day? No. Or should I say yes? No. I'm getting into question debt. It's all good. We're all about questions here. We're all about seeking. Okay. Had an old friend I've been close to with recently, but I still consider a wonderful person. He's moved to Chicago and let me sublet his apartment when I needed the furniture and appliances for me, sold them to me super cheap. I helped him with taking care of the last things he needed here. This was about 5 to 6 years ago. He texted me out of the blue to say I was ignoring him. 2 methods he tried to reach out to me are places I don't check messages, and I apologize. He berated me and said he should have expected this from me because I'm, quote, nothing but excuses made of excuses, end quote. I'm sorry, Mel. That's... His bad attitude is not your fault. That is a result of things in his heart. And, you know, he's clearly operating from a sense of hurt. And in that state, he's probably not going to really be able to click, even when you say, like, well, those aren't places to get in touch with me. I'm not saying that to excuse anything. Like, I'm not trying to excuse his behavior. I'm just processing. But ultimately, that's kind of a rude move. I hope he comes back to apologize to you at some point. Because, yeah, that's not cool. And it's like, he's clearly operating out of some place of hurt. And again, that does not justify anything. That does not allow for anything. But I just say that because it's a way of saying, okay, it's not because of me. It's not because of you, Mel. You blocked him on everything, but I'm worried he's misplacing some anger on me. Yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like he is, and that's rough, and I'm sorry you have to go through that. But that anger is not because of you. Ultimately, like, that is, like, from a reasonable standpoint, that is not your fault. Now, the thing is that we are people of head and heart and body, and this is one where, like, mentally, it's very easy to go through the calculus and go, okay, this isn't my fault. He has no right to be angry at me. But I think it hurts in the heart because he's a friend. If he was some random dude who sold you a couch once and was, like, now trying to get back to you and is, like, upset, that would be different. But, you know, it hurts to receive that from a friend, and that hurt is valid because we don't want to have that from our friends. You know, so again, I feel sorry for you and my heart goes out to you, but I hope that you can find the peace in your heart to be able to have that distance and separation, say, this isn't my fault, this isn't because of me. You know, you have not made a mistake, nor have you certainly intentionally done anything to harm him, you know? So, I'm sorry that had to happen to you, and I'm sorry you had to go through it, but I'll keep you in my prayers for finding peace and healing. Yeah, it's a good way to put it, Britt. It's not your responsibility, but doesn't mean it doesn't suck. But know that we're here with you in the suck, Mel, and we're with you in that. You know, with you in prayer in a special way, and I'll definitely keep you in my heart and in my prayers. And we'll keep Eric in our prayers too, yeah. You know, so I hope you find the good self-care tools you need to do to sort of process this and create space to take care of yourself in the middle of this, to do something nice for yourself, and to remind yourself that you are good, you are worthy of love, you are loved. You know, as the song says, it's rays of hope. You're welcome, Mel. Yeah, no, and I totally get needing to hear it from an external source. Validation and reassurance is powerful. The dome is coming along nicely. Just to shift gears a little bit. Yay, the church looks... Thank you. Yeah, and then we completed this wall as well, behind the altar with the tabernacle. Nothing is on fire! Yeah. Why domes? Because domes are cool. Mercy in Latin is misericordia, which means enter into one's wretchedness. And when we share in someone's, it helps us and allows us healing. Yep, amen. Do Catholic priests still learn liturgical Latin? Seminary still requires priests to learn some amount of Latin, so I actually just did like a summer course. That was all that was. What if Dome of Fire? No, no Dome of Thermite Fire. And then we just learn random Latin throughout seminary as well. Some guys learn more than others. I am so bad at Latin. Declension-based languages are not easy for me to understand. Honestly, the easiest language for me to understand, and I've studied about almost a dozen at this point in my life in one form or another, was honestly ancient Ethiopian. Yeah, misery loves company. Gallia est omnis divisa in partes tres. Indeed. You mean is? Yeah, ancient Ethiopian. I'm super rusty now. I need to go back and practice more, but only the Holy Spirit fire, please. Yeah, you don't... It's true. You do not tend to meet a lot of people in North America who even know of it. But, yeah, the seminary I went to had a world-class Semitics department, and they had a professor teaching it, and I was interested, and like, sure. Schmetterling! Yes. Yes. German is also a silly language that I have studied. I was hoping I could find some other random resources here that I have left behind. Fish. But alas. All my homies love German. I actually quite like German poetry. I find it can be, like, I know it has the reputation of being very harsh and very guttural, but it can be... Spanish better than German? I mean, Spanish is pretty cool too. I do use a decent amount of Spanish in my church because we have a large Puerto Rican and Dominican population, and the nuns who live with us are from Mexico. Okay, the dome looks really cool from the outside too. Keep putting her in, that's a good thing to do. Indomitable. German's better than Spanish. It's more of a hot take in general in the US, yeah. Spanish would be good if it were good. That's a tautology map hack. Still don't know what I have some ideas for a facade, but I'm not ready to tackle it. Yeah, no, and you did the right thing. I hardly know ology. Mel, you absolutely did the right thing in blocking him as difficult as it is, because sometimes the best thing we can do is to just not engage. Spanish would be good if it were French instead. That's like saying mushrooms would be good if they were beef instead. True, but unhelpful. I kind of like this stepping right here that I've got going on. It kind of reminds me of Spanish mission style. Of course, almost all of that's going to get swallowed up by the bell towers, but, you know, mushrooms and exoskeletons are both made of chitin. Yes, and that's why mushrooms are terrible. Italian is just vulgar Latin. Yeah. Various churchy words. Russian is a weird one. I was curious about the Cyrillic alphabet once, and it just... my brain could not comprehend it, because it's like... uses some of the Latin symbols and some of the Greek symbols and some of its own, but they don't always follow the same rules. Father hates Junie, confirmed. No! I can't hate Junie, I'm a mod. Brief prayer request? Absolutely. I've been through like crazy lately, and it seems everyone I know keeps bringing up a specific person in conversation while I'm not... oh my. My friends. It's hard to know friends I have. Yeah. No, absolutely. Prayers for you, Brett. Yeah, I like how that looks from the outside too. That turned out really nicely. And the side profile's looking good with the start of with the dome becoming more solid. I need to get back to finish. You need to finish? Indeed. Language puns. Ow. So what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 walls left to put up. It's not bad. How many have we put up already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. But this is probably the hardest walls, these big long ones. But yeah, that's looking cool with the dome and the glass, the baldacchino, the altar. That's a great view that's coming together. You want to hear a language joke? Even not. That's a... Okay, actually, I need to finish it. Oh. You can't finish. It's weird Swedish. Okay, so there is a poster here in the walls of the office for an infographic we made once about like the Ignatian examen at the end of the day, and like one of the lines in it is "Finish your prayer," and I always want to put a sticky note up on it that says, "I prefer to Swedish my prayers," and see how long it takes for my coworkers to notice. The overlap between Twitter and Twitch is huge. Oof. So, but I feel like we made really good progress today. Yeah, Twitch, it can be a very surprisingly small world. But we're definitely keeping everyone in prayer. So, but yeah, so thanks so much for everyone tuning in today to Let Us Play. I've been your host, Father Evan. Join us again tomorrow for Retro Thursday. Hopefully going to be finishing off Retro Thursday. It's Throwback Thursday now. Has the alliteration, Father Evan. Throwback Thursday, hopefully we're going to be finishing off Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. And then next week, Monday, more Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. Tuesday, we're starting 5, Guardians of David. Midweek Minecraft. And then Thursday, if we do finish Indiana Jones this week, hopefully next week, we're going to be starting what I'm calling the Power Ranger Power Hour. So we're going to have some fun with some Power Rangers games. Uh-oh, MatPack has dropped a joke. So a guy wanted to immigrate to Finland. He travels to the country and goes to the immigration counter, where the woman at the counter greets him. He tells her that he wants to immigrate, and she says, "Would you consider yourself a nice person?" And he says, yes, and she says, "Back of the line." When he heard her question, she immediately responds with, "Haven't you heard? Nice guys finish last." That was uniquely terrible. Thank you for sharing that, MatPack. But thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. Thank you for everyone liking, sharing, subscribing, checking out the YouTube, checking out the Discord, all that good jazz. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. That joke was bad, and you should feel bad. What do you call a snobbish criminal walking down the stairs? Uh-oh, I'm terrified. What? A condescending. I'm not getting in the middle of a MatPack language pedantic fight. Instead, I'm going to send y'all over to Brosif Lacask, who is doing a Disney Afternoon collection. So Looks like, oh, he's doing DuckTales right now. A woohoo. A short psychic brought out of jail. Small, medium, at large. Anyway, I'm going to send y'all over to Broseph Lakask. He's a fun space crusader. He's a cool VTuber dude. Raid call his father raid. Spam that meat morp if you got it. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be praying for you. And God bless.